Representative from our valley is introducing a bill that would change Ohio State's football schedule. Representative Tex Fisher's bill would ban games starting before 3:30 p.m., especially for games in which both teams rank in the top 10. Fisher says the noon games diminish the Ohio State fan experience and negatively impact the local economy. 21 News sports analyst DJ Yokley is back with me now here at 5 to talk all about it. And, this is what everyone's talking about, so you're going to hear about it right here at 5. Why do you think the bill is so important for fans?
Linz, I just heard about this. To me, at first look, I'm not sure that I like it. I'm not sure that I don't. I'm not sure where I stand. So I'm going to be talking straight from the heart here. The real thing for me is every fan wants to see their team playing primetime. Like that's a no doubter. Noon games can be tough, especially coming off a Friday night or a Saturday night if you're an NFL fan. But what I'll tell you is I'm not sure the impact that it really has on the economy if you move it back 3.5 hours, because a lot of those tailgates open, at the same time they would just 3.5 hours earlier, to accommodate a noon game. Same thing with if the game's at 3:30, they'll just open 3.5 hours later. So from a business perspective, I'm sure that there's an argument to be had, but I'm not really understanding what difference and what shift this is going to make, other than everything's going to be 3.5 hours later at the earliest. But what I can tell you is I'm not a huge fan of government getting involved in sports. The separation of church and state is one thing, but sports is something that's pure for a lot of fans. And for the government to kind of get their hands in this, there's a lot of other things that can be done, I would imagine, before you start messing around with times of kickoffs.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of news stories with the funding of stadiums and sports and the government in Ohio. So this is a lot in the news right now. And the bill also suggests Ohio's Attorney General's would fine the host conference or TV network $10 million if the game is at noon. Do you think that's fair? Do you think that will definitely make this a change when it comes to their schedule?
I don't think it's fair. And one of the biggest reasons I don't think it's fair is the government doesn't really have any skin in the game. The networks have the skin in the game. They're paying billions of dollars to have these games televised, and obviously the advertisers are paying to have their promote their products and services. What does the government have to do with it? Other than the sake of planting a flag and taking a stand. I think this is just a vote getter. I think this is something that people will rely on, Tex will rely on in 4 years to say, hey, this is what I did. But I think this is a very slippery slope. I mean, Linz, last night the Browns came out with their schedule. They have 0 primetime games. So who's to say that the governor of Ohio doesn't step in and say, well, we're no longer going to have 1 o'clock games. We're going to have all of our games begin at least at 4 o'clock. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense right now, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because when you get into something like this is a very, very, very slippery slope, because if this works, what's next? Because you don't want government necessarily controlling what time you're watching television.
We've got a lot of opinions on this one. I mean, you see the comments. It is all over the board. The bill exempts the Buckeyes game against Michigan, though, which traditionally starts at noon. So do you think that there's a reason they're not touching that one?
Doesn't that shoot their argument in the foot? I mean, that's the biggest game of the season. And if you're saying that it's okay to have the biggest game on our schedule at noon, why is it not okay to have the other games on your schedule at noon? To me, it doesn't make sense. And that's why I'm a little bit confused. That's the biggest game. That's going to get the biggest crowd in Michigan. That's going to get the biggest crowd in Columbus. So explain to me why that one's okay and that one's hands off, but everyone else is on the chopping block.
We'll see what happens and if it sticks. DJ, thank you so much for joining us here as always.
Thanks, Linz.